Alright, so this is the first video. We're going to look at how to multiply when we have exponents. So first we need to kind of explore what an exponent really means. So if we focus in on this first problem here, we have 2 squared times 2 to the third. So when we're thinking about what 2 squared actually means, remember if I'm ever squaring something, it is essentially telling me to multiply by itself. So if I write this out in expanded form, 2 squared is really 2 times 2, right? So that's my first set of parentheses. And then I'm multiplying by 2 to the third, so that's really 2 times 2 times 2. So if I think about simplifying this down, I can think through how many 2's I have here that I'm multiplying together. So if you want to simplify this, I have 5 2's that I'm multiplying together. I could simplify this down into 2 to the 5th power. I'm not necessarily interested in the calculator answer. We're more interested in what we can do to simplify that. So if I look at number 3 here, I'll just skip around since this is on my screen already. I have, and we don't have to write it out in that expanded form every time. I am simply thinking I have 3 5's and 5 more 5's. That makes 8 total 5, so 5 to the 8th power. If you want a rule to apply to this, we are really just adding the exponents. Okay, so we're really just adding the exponents together. So let's go over to these other 2 here. Okay, so here I have 1 4 and 5 more 4's. That's going to combine together to make 6 4's, so 4 to the 6th power. Works the same way with variables. I have 2 x's and 6 more x's, so that makes 8 x's, 8x to the 8th power. Now one thing we do have to be careful with, okay, so I want to pull it over here to the side and show you something. So the one thing that we do have to be careful with is this versus this. Okay, so if we look here, hopefully you can recognize that the difference is the variable, right? So in this problem over here, 2 is acting as a coefficient. Coefficients don't have any kind of special rules that apply to them. Coefficients are very simply numbers that we do what we see with. Here you can see that there's no variable here, so this exponent of 3 is applying directly to the 2. That makes it a base. So when we have bases, we apply the same rules that we learned over to the left. Okay, so if we have coefficients, we do what we see, then we apply the exponent rules to the variables, to the bases. If we do not have a coefficient, we're just applying those exponent rules to that base. So I just want to show you what that looks like here on try these number 1. Okay, so I see on try these number 1 that -2 and 5 do not have exponents on them, right? This exponent of 10 is on the x, this exponent of 3 is on the x. So these 2 numbers do not have exponents on them. That makes them coefficients. Coefficients were supposed to do what we see. So since I see parentheses sitting right next to each other, that means I'm doing multiplication, so I should multiply -2 times 5. So -2 times 5 is -10. Then I apply my exponent rules to my variables. So I have 3 x's here, 10 more x's here. That should make 13 x's, so x to the 13th power. So you can see that we do not have the same rules for our coefficients as we do for our exponents. So at this point, I want you to go ahead and pause the video to do the other 2, try these problems. And then when you are ready to go through the other 2, then you can go ahead and unpause the video. Okay, so looking here at number 2, my coefficients here, and this one is a little bit tricky. I have a 4 as a coefficient. Here I just see a negative sign, but we know that there is an imaginary 1 there. So my coefficients here are 4 and -1. Do what you see. So 4 times -1 is -4. Now apply your exponent rules. I see 2 x's and 3 more x's. That makes 5 x's, so x to the 5th. I see a single y and 3 more y's. That makes 4 y's. I see 8 z's and 3 more z's. That makes 11 z's. So I have z to the 11th power. Okay. And then lastly, number 3. So now I have 3 sets of parentheses. It doesn't change anything, just makes it a little longer. So I have 3 coefficients that I'm looking at. And remember, I'm always looking for numbers without exponents on them. So that's 2, 3, and 10. So I need to multiply all those together. 2 times 3 is 6. And then times 10 would be 60. And then I want to add up all my x's. So a single x there, 4 more there makes 5, and 5 more makes 10. So x to the 10th power.